Hello, YouTube. So today I would like to talk about the word, the name, the term expat. Expat, immigrant, migrant, gringo, digital nomad, these various terms we use to describe ourselves or that other people use to describe us, and the issues around them, the opinions around them, the controversy around these words. So let's get into it. So if you have ever been a part of any expat group, whether it's in Facebook or Reddit or wherever on the internet, the topic has come up. People have challenged the use of the word expat, and with good reason. There is a strong argument to say that an expat is just an immigrant that is privileged or pretentious. There is really fundamentally no difference between an expat and an immigrant. And it's a valid argument, but it doesn't present the whole picture. And here's my opinion. I consider myself an expat, not an immigrant. What is the difference? What is the difference between an expat and an immigrant? Is it just that I'm privileged? I come from North America and I don't want to call myself the same thing as someone coming from Mexico or the Congo or Pakistan to the US? Or is there something truly different about an expat and an immigrant? And my answer is yes, there is something truly different. Expats tend to be, in my opinion, global citizens. Immigrants, in my opinion, have a lot more loyalty to the place they have immigrated to. They have moved from Mexico to the US or El Salvador or Pakistan to the UK. They've moved from some place that they do not want to return. And they don't want to continue to identify with to their new home where they intend to live out their life and become a citizen. Whereas expats are, there's no polite way to put this. We're a lot more opportunistic. We are, in my opinion, we're global citizens. We don't have this strong loyalty to one place or another. Expats will go where the conditions serve them best for the moment. So I'm in Ecuador and I might stay here forever. I might, or I might not. If conditions on the ground change and it doesn't suit my needs here anymore, perhaps I'll leave. That's not what an immigrant does. An immigrant moves there for better, for worse. It's almost like a marriage in good times and bad, right? An expat is a relationship of convenience. An expat goes somewhere because there's something there that serves us, that benefits us, and we will move on. We'll move somewhere else if the situation changes. And so this is, in my opinion, the fundamental difference between an immigrant and an expat. Now, a migrant is just another way to say immigrant, but with less rights. Migrants typically refer to people who are very less likely to be legal immigrants. They're just going wherever they can. And digital nomads are expats, but they are, how would I put this? They're like expat light, right? So they have even less attachment to any one place. They're much more likely to just keep moving, and they are much more likely to eventually return home. And that's the difference. Expats, they might not have any home anymore. There is no home. Digital nomads, there's some place they came from that when the going gets rough, they're going to go back, right? So this is my opinion about the difference between expats, immigrants, migrants, and digital nomads. And beyond that, the other arguments I've heard are that expats tend to be white folk, right? They tend to be privileged white folks from United States, Canada, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, places like this. Whereas the same person with a different skin tone coming from China, coming from India, even if they have the same economic status, the person with a darker shade of skin coming from a less privileged country is an immigrant. And the person coming from the US is much more likely to identify themselves as an expat. And I've heard this as a criticism. I've heard this as a critique on, I guess, this whole movement of what an expat is. I don't buy it. I don't buy it because I've met numerous people who are expats. They're from the US or Canada or Europe, but they're not white. And I've met people who defy the trend, and it's some guy from Singapore, and he's like, "No, I'm not an immigrant, I'm an expat." So we get to define who we are. We get to explain who we are, choose who we are, pick our own identity. And that's at the core of this, is those that try to gatekeep and try to tell us who we are and what we can be, they're full of shit, right? They're full of shit. I'm an expat. I'm from the US. I live in Ecuador. I like it in Ecuador, but if things get rough here and I don't like it anymore, I'll move on. I might not move back to the US because I'm not a digital nomad. I'm an expat. If I don't stay in Ecuador, I might move to Colombia or the Philippines or anywhere else. But I'm going to stay overseas because I'm an expat. But I'm not an immigrant. I'm not trying to become a citizen of Ecuador. I've considered it. I might eventually become a citizen of Ecuador. But for now, it doesn't suit my needs. And because I am privileged, because I am an expat, because I'm privileged, I'm going to do what suits me best. And that's what I have to say about the topic. Those that try to argue with the definition of expat, try to say it's not real, try to say it's a pretentious way of just saying immigrant, there's more to it than that. And yes, I am also probably an immigrant, but first and foremost, I am an expat. Peace out.